Okay, Tolkien fanatics, here we are again, and I'm here to talk to you today about another army review in my army review series. So last time I talked about Arnor, which is one of my favorite armies that I used to love playing in the old edition that really got the nerf hammer, and unfortunately you don't really see it much anymore. But this army here, which I think is really, really cool, and I'd really like to give it a try sometime, you never, ever see it. Not on its own, at least. And there's a reason for that. So, for those of you who have skimmed through the video already, you already know what I'm talking about. But that is the trolls. Yes, we're talking about Bill, Bert, and Tom. I think one of them's named William. I think that's Bill's name's William. But Bill, Bert, and Tom. They are, in my opinion, three of the coolest profiles out there for just their little I'm not going to call it janky, but interesting little uh, special rules and options they have. So this should be a pretty quick one. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. I'm going to talk to you about it. Three profiles, really quick and easy to run through, and then we'll talk a little more about who they can ally with and stuff like that, like I normally do. So there literally is only three models. It's right there in the army composition: Bill, Bert, and Tom Troll. The additional rule is you can deploy them as a single warband if you want, kind of like the Fellowship of the Ring. Um, or you can do each one individually. I think personally I'd probably do each one individually, as smart as it would be to maybe have them all clustered together. If you drop them one at a time, it kind of forces your opponent to therefore go ahead and have to deploy their warbands, which can give you an idea of what their thought process is for their strategy depending on the scenario you're playing. So just a little thought right there, right out the box on a way to tactically, strategically, whatever, plan out your game. So starting with Bill, he is a hero of valor, which is important due to the new rules of the new FAQs that came out for allying, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But he is the most expensive, and he's definitely the best. So he is basically an attack troll. By attack troll I mean Isengard or Mordor troll. He's fight 7, super good. He's a typical troll when it comes to throwing stuff because he's a troll, so he doesn't have throw stones. He's a 5-up. Strength 7, defense 7, pretty good. So you're talking about a just straight troll there without armor or shield or anything like that. That's really good. You're definitely going to get in there and want to do some rending with him if you can against big heroes and stuff like that. 3 attack, 3 wounds. That's pretty standard. Courage 4, pretty good for a troll or for evil. I'm not sure about standard trolls. I can't remember off the top of my head, but for courage 4 for an evil is pretty darn good. 3 might, 1 will, 1 fate. So if you play this army pure, and I'll tell you why you don't ever see this army here in a minute, he's going to have, you got to kind of be careful with him because he's going to be your leader as a hero of valor, which is why I mentioned that. He has strike and strength, so potentially strength 10. That's awesome. And then the ability to get up to fight value 10, which is also awesome. Where gear options, he can take the campfire. I'm not going to talk about the campfire right now. I'm going to come back to it. Don't worry, we're going to circle back. Special rules, he has terror and throw stones. So he's got 2 other ones. One's an active, one's a brutal power attack. So the active one is keep him for later. If this troll wins a fight, so Bill the troll wins a fight, they may choose one man-sized model or smaller from the fight and keep them for later instead of rolling for strikes or using a brutal power attack. Replace the model with a 25mm marker that represents the unfortunate victim stuffed in a bag. The model thereafter counts as being subject to the paralyzed magical power. So ability to get paralyzed on a man-sized model. Pretty cool. Yeah, it could basically be absolutely worthless because paralyzed model does nothing. End of the turn, attempt to roll a d6 and get a 6, paralyzed is gone. So 16% chance that in the first turn that actually goes away. But the ability to maybe take an enemy hero and just completely neutralize them for a minimum of 1 turn could be really, really useful there. So there is that to look at. And I do think that is something, I don't know if I'd ever use it, but it could be something that is always jangling around at the back of your mind when you're in combat. Like, hey, I could do this and really made me mess up my opponent's plan. Next, mince him fine. This is a brutal power attack. When Bill wins a fight, he may choose to perform mince him fine brutal power attack instead of making strikes. Choose one enemy model in the fight. Both Bill and the chosen model roll a d6 and add their respective strength values. If Bill rolls higher, the victim suffers a number of wounds equal to the difference, each of which may be prevented by a fate point in the usual way. Regardless of who rolls higher, the victim backs away as normal. So it's kind of similar to Bash, where you take, your strength, you and your opponent roll a d6, and then you add the strengths together, and whoever's is higher, if the basher is higher, then the bashee is prone. So the opposite here is you're doing wounds. So imagine doing that against like a strength 4 hero. Go ahead and throw a 6 with that. You're talking about a 13, because you're adding your strength. So it would be 7 plus 6 is 13. Even if your opponent rolls a 6, you're doing a minimum of 3 wounds there. If it's a strength 4 hero. Or, even strength 5, looking at Dane, that's a minimum of 2 wounds. You just hope you roll real high and they roll real low. The ability to kill a hero outright right there is pretty damn good. Now, it is a bit of a gamble because you are relying on a dice roll. But the fact that you're automatically going to be starting, higher than them, unless you're going against another troll. Yeah, I would use this against strength 4 heroes myself. But yeah, that would be a great way to go ahead and kill like a big hero like an Aragorn or an Imrahil or a Boromir or a Eomer or a Théoden or someone like that. A Lurtz or an Ugluk or a Shagrat. Somebody like that. That's pretty good. I really like that. Okay. So moving on, we have Bert. He is a Fortitude. He is the same thing, only he has 1 point less might. His heroic actions are strength and defense. So another guy who can get up to strength 10, and having defense is good. He can go in there and hold his ground, I guess, for 2 turns. He also has terror and throw stones, and the keep him for later special rule, so he can do the paralyze special rule. And then he has roast him slowly, which is his brutal power attack. When Bert wins a fight, he may choose to perform a roast him slowly brutal power attack instead of making strikes as long as he is within 6 inches of a fire. This is where the campfire comes in handy. Choose an enemy model involved in the fight and place it in base contact with the fire, and the model is immediately set ablaze. Now, I can't remember the rule for set ablaze off the top of my head, and I probably should have taken a moment to look this up beforehand, so I do apologize. But I'm pretty sure, like, set ablaze, you instantly take a strength 9 hit or something ridiculous like that. It's a strength 8 or strength 9 hit, and you're on fire. So you have to, like, stop, drop, and roll in the game, which is pretty cool. Or you subsequently take, I think it's somewhere between strength 4 to strength 6 hits every turn until your fire is out. Crazy. But yeah, so I don't really think that's going to be a very prevalent one, especially because you need the campfire, but you could potentially have that going on and setting somebody on fire. Now, I would say that if you choose, it doesn't say, so if it says choose an enemy model, if you choose to do a mounted model, that means that the horse is also set ablaze. So yeah. And then finally, Tom the Troll. And he is, unfortunately, Tom the Troll is the one that was sneezing and, putting floaters in the soup. And his stats reflect that. He's more of the cave troll. Fight 6, so he's gone down. Strength 6, defense 6. It's probably because he's getting over the cold, like I said. 3 attacks, 3 wounds, so at least that's the same. Courage has dropped to 3. 1 might, 3 will, 1 fate. Now I hear people going, what? That's so weird. Why has he got 1, 3, 1? That's kind of like a spellcaster. Well, funny you should say that. Let me get to here in a second, but let me run through it. So he's got heroic defense. So you could choose to use your Uno point of might to do a heroic defense, which could maybe be a good idea because of his special rules. But he still has terror, throw stones, and keep him for later. And then lingering cold is his active special ability. During a fight that involves him being Tom, and before making a duel roll, Tom may expend a point of will to have the fight value of a single foe in base contact, half the fight value of a single foe in base contact as he sneezes on his victim. This is unpreventable. Let me say that again. This is unpreventable. Okay? It is an active ability. All he does is spend a point of will, and whoever you're in base contact with, a single person becomes half fight value. I have used this to kill Dane. Yes. And he can do it 3 times because he has 3 will points. As long as you're not going against like a sap will caster of some sort. Yeah. Half the fight value. Even if you strike up, you still get half back down. Wow. Right? Right? That's pretty damn good. Okay? Nothing to laugh at. I like that special ability. And then we have Squish him to Jelly for his brutal power attack, and that's when he wins a fight. He may choose to perform a Squish him to Jelly's brutal power attack instead of making strikes. Every enemy model involved in the same fight, not supporting models, just those in base contact, suffers a strength 6 hit. Any who survive are knocked prone. I see this as a great way to go in and kill troops. He gets surrounded by a buttload of warriors in Minas Tirith. Just basically do the bludgeon thing that Treebeard does and just smack them all with a strength 6 hit. Pretty good way to maybe knock out 4, 5, 6 kills right there. Doesn't get support, so you're not going to be getting those spear support guys or pike support, but a really good way to maybe knock out a lot more than 3 kills. So nothing to laugh at there. All right, so those are the 3 guys. Now let's talk about the army bonus. Hold his toes over the fire and make him squeal. You may include the campfire in your army without having to pay points for it. Additionally, the 3 trolls will treat the campfire as a banner in addition to all the other effects it usually provide. So the campfire is something that Bill the Troll can take, and he can take it for 15 points. So what does it do, other than the fact that now you can get it for free if you're a green, and you get to treat it as a banner? So after forces are deployed, but before the first turn begins, place the campfire anywhere on the board outside of your opponent's deployment area. I would assume that since it says outside of your opponent's deployment area, if you're playing a Maelstrom game, you would roll for a table half like normal, like you would do for a siege weapon. Okay. Bill, Tom, and Bert gain resistance to magic special rule and a bonus of +1 to the courage whilst they are within 6 inches of the campfire. So it's a banner. This is green allies. If it's a banner, it's free. It's resistance to magic, so you're getting at least 1 will. 1 dice to resist plus a will point or more if you're going with Tom. And you get +1 to courage. So you got a good chance now of charging terror armies because you're talking about Bill and Bert being courage 5, which is elven courage, and then Tom coming up to courage 4, which is dwarven courage. Pretty solid for those 15 points normally spent. The downside, unfortunately, is that even if you take all 3 trolls, they're only 400 points. And I have never seen a 400-point event here in the U.S. I'm sure there's ones done over in the UK because they have games tournaments like every day. But I have never seen a 400-point tournament in the U.S. Maybe an escalation. You could take all 4 of these, and then after that, use an ally at like 650 or something like that. But that might be one of those janky things where you'd have to get with the TO beforehand and make sure he's cool with it. Yeah. So that's the trolls. And let's talk about their allies real quick and why you won't ever see really this happen. Because they have no green allies. Unfortunately, most of their allies are red, except for a scant few of them. One of them being Azog's Hunters. I'll just go through them real quick. Azog's Hunters are yellow. So these are just convenient allies. They have no green allies, no historic allies. So the only convenient allies they have are Azog's Hunters, Dark Denzians of Mirkwood, Dark Powers of Dol Guldur, Desolator of the North. So apparently they can be yellow allies with Smaug. Okay, whatever. Who else? Goblin Town, which is pretty popular to see, and Moria. So, you could run them with a Belrock. Nothing wrong with that. But the most popular way you usually see them is 1 or 2 of them potentially allied in with Goblin Town, just to give the Goblin King something else to help, quote-unquote, defend him, to keep your opponent from focusing all their big stuff at taking out the Goblin King. You have now, 1 or 2 of these trolls. So the reason that the Hero of Valor was important is because they're yellow allies. At the minimum, you have to take Bill the Troll. So I thought about taking it with Tom and allying in with Goblin Town, but Tom is a hero of fortitude, and unfortunately, since they're convenient allies, you have to have a minimum of a hero of valor. So, yeah, that kind of shot my plan in the foot. But that is the Trolls. Ended up talking a little bit longer than I expected on them, but I really like that army. Just my final thoughts before I finish this up. I really like that army. I think those 3 models are really cool. They have 3 of the most unique profiles. I mean, just listen to the special rules and cool stuff I talked about. I wish I could see them in a game. I've never seen them in a game. It'd be really cool. I am working on getting my own painted up because I'd like to play with them. Maybe just convince my local folks to play a 400-point game just to see how they do. Or run like maybe a little small local 400-point event. I mean, I think you can get at 400 points. You could probably do hour-long games and get 4 or 5 in a day. But that's everything. Please smash that like, share, subscribe button. Show it to your friends. Get other folks watching. It helps me out. Helps you out because it gives you guys something, mutually to talk about to get a conversation going. And it just helps the community out in general. But until next time, take care and enjoy your Tolkien Legendarium.